Welcome to the Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. The time is just after 5:30. Start with a roll call of commissioners. Member Cook.
Here.
Sergeant. Here. Member Thierry.
Here.
Member Gola. And Member Jackson.
Here.
All right, so we do have a quorum.
Okay, first up is administrative. Oh, do you need to do the? First up is the administrative briefing. Have you anything to contribute to that, sir?
Let's see. Right into it.
Next up is public comment. This is the opportunity for any member of the public who wishes to speak on an item of conservation interest that is not on the agenda to speak their thoughts. Do you have anybody interested in doing so?
No hands up on the Zoom and none here.
Okay. I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to minutes review and approval for the Conservation Commission meeting minutes of August 20th. Bill, in Rob's absence, can I count on you for motion, please?
Yes.
Would you like to move the minutes?
Commissioner Cook moves to approve the minutes from August 18th, 2025.
Commissioner Sergeant seconds.
Call Member Cook.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Member Thierry.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes, and just to clarify, those are actually, the meeting was held on August 20th. That's a typo on the agenda. Okay, we're moving on to continued business. First up is NOI 0282976 at 171 and 281 Rear Magnolia Avenue, Mag LLC. This project has been previously continued to September 17th, 2025. Next up is NOI 0283077 at 37 Massasoit Road, Daniel Fonzie. This meeting has also previously been continued to the meeting of September 17th, 2025. Next up, NOI 0283080 598 and 600 Essex Avenue, Michael Oliver. This meeting also was previously continued to September 17th, 2025. Next up is NOI 0283006 at 105 Wingersheek Road, 125 Wingersheek LLC, to replace a existing single-family home and detached garage with house-supported single-family home and garage, installation of gravel driveway, installation of septic system and water service in coastal dune, barrier beach, land subject to coastal storm flowage, ACEC buffer zone to ACEC and W, represented by Joel Favazza, Seaside Legal Solutions, PC.
Good evening. So for the record, Joel Favazza, Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street here in Gloucester on behalf of 125 Wingersheek LLC, the applicant for both 105 and 107 Wingersheek Road. Last time we were here, we spoke with a third-party reviewer in the last kind of few outstanding comments that were unresolved, and one of the two were about getting some notations added to the plan. Everyone seems to be in agreement at the end of that. The bigger question was about the redefined ACEC line and the upper edge and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to share my screen right now. So we just kind of look at okay. So in my scribble onto John's plan, the red line is the new ACEC line. Again, when we began this process, the ACEC line is under the old interpretation was not even on the property. The orange line is the 100-foot, so that's the upper edge. And the yellow is the full 200 feet out from the ACEC. And so there's this prohibition about having septic components within that, the initial these buffer zones, right, to the ACEC, and I'll highlight it in blue. This is the house on the left where the septic components are. And you'll see that in order to get these, a full 200 feet away, which would be past the yellow line, you'd basically be at the edge of, the dune area that we've been trying to move the houses back. I can actually show you, while I'm doing this, I can show you annotation, just so everyone remembers, the original house is all the way up here. And originally, we had proposed houses that were closer, still behind this, but closer to it. And one of the issues we ran into was getting this to comply with the overlapping regulations between the local wetlands ordinance, the state wetland protection act, and the local floodplain ordinance. And that is what got us to new siting. And so there's no real space on these lots. So we can get over to the other property so you can see that one too, if it'll switch with me. Right, so here's the other house, right? Same situation. In order to get that septic completely out of the first, the green line's coming with me. To get everything out, you're going to be pushing it so far forward, much closer to the velocity zone, much closer to the primary frontal dune, kind of into the ecological area we've been trying to get out of and away from this whole time. And so this seems kind of like an unintended consequence of the new interpretation. And so what we, are going to be asking of the commission, that's why I wanted to kind of speak about this tonight with you, is you have this prohibition in the local ordinance, but you are the, issuing authority under the local ordinance. And in this situation, does the commission look at this and go, yeah, the right result is to keep this further from the velocity zone, further from the primary frontal dune, quote unquote, behind the house, so to speak. Because when all is said and done, this is, serving overall the interest of the wetlands ordinance in a more comprehensive fashion than if we said, okay, sorry guys, the septic system is to shoot out the front of the house and head toward, the rack line, right? So I leave it to you because that's, that's up to you to allow us to, get around this prohibition in the local ordinance. If you say we're going to not allow you to get around it, then we have to redesign septic systems that are out in front of the house. So I just want to show you that, and we're kind of stuck until we get some guidance.
Let me open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 105 Wingersheek Road?
We have no hands up on the Zoom and none here.
I'll close the public comment period. Under Commissioner roll call comments.
Member Cook,
No comments at this time.
Sergeant.
Yes, the first 100 feet from the ACEC, the upland edge, is considered a resource area by itself. So to leave the septic system and put that in a resource area is problematic. It's very close to being outside that 100-foot and into the 200-foot where there is a prohibition, and technically the Conservation Commission could, grant a variance to that. But before the Conservation Commission, in my opinion, you should be looking at septic system approvals that should be going through the Board of Health.
These are already approved.
Right. Not if they've been moved. They would, because now there's a new ACEC delineation and they haven't reviewed the plan with the new ACEC delineation.
So the approvals remain valid despite the new interpretation from the Title V septic, because of the Permit Extension Act of 2024. These systems are still viable systems to the Board of Health.
I would suggest you check with the Board of Health. I talked to the wastewater sanitarian this week and he didn't agree with that. But if he agrees with you, maybe you can get a letter or an email from him that he agrees to that. And then we could look at that. But right now, even though you may have a good sermon, it may be the wrong church.
Indicating that if the Board of Health were to make were to look at this and look at the kind of presentation I gave you and also conclude, yeah, we really don't want the septic system being flopped into the other side of the house. It is better over here. you guys are under two different sets, right? They're under Title V and you're under the Wetland Protection Act and the GWO. Is that going to have bearing? If I come here and say, hey, Board of Health agrees, what places we have them are the smart place to have them?
Well, the process, as you know, is linear. And I don't want to say what the third step you're gonna take, you know, if you have the first two. So it's a linear process. If the Board of Health says fine, you know, then we can take the next step.
Member Terry.
My first question is, where was the original ACEC line where we adopted the new vertical datum?
I'll probably tell you, give me one moment. Must need to have that follow up. That should be.
Well, I have a second question is it possible to change this sewage disposal system to some more kind of advanced treatment that has a smaller footprint, fewer components or something like that?
Get interrupt.
We'll find the old buffer on the older plans. You know, the AC line itself was off site, and so it was only throwing, was throwing anything, we've been throwing buffers on, but it was all further down toward Winger Street Road, so that these septic systems that were permitted through the Board of Health were not inconsistent with the local wetland ordinance. Take one more plan before I waste any more time. I won't take any more time. But again, I know the line was not even on the property to begin with, for the actual ACDC delineation. And so it would have only been the outside, the outer edge and the 200-foot line making its way onto property.
All right, the last point I'll make in terms of interaction with the Board of Health approval, under the Wetlands Protection Act and those regulations, there is a presumption based on an approval by the Board of Health. I don't think that same presumption applies to our Gloucester wetland ordinance. So the issue here is your placement of the septic system in a locally protected wetland resource area, the upland edge, which is more stringent than the state act. So I don't think that presumption would apply to that. It's a presumption of basically meeting the functions of the Wetlands Protection Act. I don't think you have the benefit of that under the local wetland ordinance. So I think you have to kind of get approvals from both. It's not like one approval can satisfy the other.
No, I understand that. I think it was more along the lines of make sure the functionality of, you know, of looking at the unintended kind of nonsensical result that strict interpretation of the local ordinance results in, which is like stuff the septic system in the dune, which is obviously not the right move, generally speaking. So, you know, was this commission willing to go, okay, hey, you know, there's a reason that there's humans up here, and it's not just a calculator that says, hey, are you beyond this line? Then you get a check mark, you can go forward. Like you're here to, you know, interpret the whole entire project in context and go, okay, yeah, normally we would say, get this out of the, you know, in your case, it sounds, Commissioner Sargent, you seem to be looking to stay hard on the first 100 absent the Board of Health, giving you convincing reason otherwise. But you may find that between 100 and 200, you can say this, you know, I can do something that makes sense that actually serves the purpose, even if it doesn't, you know, by definition, exactly meet the prohibition language.
May I respond or something? When we agreed to that the 10-foot contour, you know, at 10 AVD, I said, and I think there was agreement that anybody that might be hurt by this new delineation, we would give weighted consideration to, you know, that, you know, and allowing a variance that if it was, you know, within the 200-foot buffer to the upland edge. And I still feel like that, but if it's in the resource area itself, I don't think we can grant that variance.
Member Jackson.
I really don't have anything to add, except that I would consider a variance in the 100 area. Jeff, do you have anything to add to this?
Nothing additional for the septic.
Okay.
I did have some questions, I guess, on 105. Your mitigation planting gives 2 to 1 for the increase in impervious surface area, but it doesn't mitigate for the vegetation that's lost for the new driveway that's going to go in. So I didn't know if that was something that should be considered. And then ongoing concern with 107, the floor elevation, I believe you're showing at 21 feet. I'm assuming that's the finished floor level. And the dune right adjacent to that is 20 to 22 feet. And I don't believe that's giving the recommended 2-foot clearance above the dunes at that location for them to allow them to migrate. So I guess I was curious if you could clarify what that 21 feet is, if that's the finish level, at the bottom lowest member is going to be that location.
So yeah, finished floor elevation, that is, you're reading that correctly. And I believe in the submission that we sent in a response to the third-party reviewer, let's pull that up. I think that we had just agreed that because the dunes are shifting around, that, when we get out there, we have to figure out where they are and set that as the lower limit, where these framing numbers go, right? Because the other parts where if we set it based on, I think the note 6 says this was originally placed on like the old 2017 survey. So I think in our comment to Bills and Thomas, I'm just checking right now the word height. I believe we said that we agree we have to meet the standard of providing the clearance, and that when we get out there and see where the dunes are upon commencement, that'll kind of set where the building, gets set on the ground. But I don't know that we can actually, other than agreeing and making a condition of any order that you must provide this clearance, in reality, I think we're all just we're just chasing this forever because, winter's going to come, and those dunes are going to move again, and then spring, where there was a 22-foot dune, might be 17, might be 23, like we don't know what it's going to be. And so this elevation shown was in response to the comments about ensuring that we would be above the requisite height. But I don't think that, and again, we haven't had any condition in the order that says when you get out there, you cannot be, lopping off dune tops to drive your beams through. Like, that's all fine. I just don't know if we can give you a definite height based on ever-changing reference point.
Okay, let's clarify that we are opening as well, NOI 0283007 at 107 Winger Sheep Road. I want to go through roll call comments on this, and I'll reopen public comment for that. Ready? Comments on this
Member
issue?
Cook?
I don't have any additional comments other than the ones that were presented for 107.
Member Terry?
There similar concern for 107? Similar septic location concern for 107?
Yeah.
I mean, on that last point about the height of the dune, I think you could benchmark it to the commencement of construction and say you got to be 2 feet over the dune where it is at the time you commence construction.
Yeah, that's fair.
For you, Chuck?
Yep.
Something like that. I would agree with that. You have to take the dunes at a point in time.
Yeah.
On these measurements, okay. Is there anyone, I'm going to reopen public comments to include 107 Winger Sheep Road. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on that project?
Have no hands up on the Zoom and up here in person.
I'll close the public comment period. Okay, so you're going to check with the health department?
Yeah, so I will check just to, I'll submit first to verify that the existing approvals remain valid. If they do, then I'll report back they remain valid. If they don't, then what I'm hearing is you'd like to have us run through them first. Come back, say, here's either our renewed approval, our continued to be approved approval, or our new approval on this thing that's, been adjusted.
You get that in writing? Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, you want to continue to whatever the next one is, 317?
Yeah, push me up for one meeting, and then Stacy's here also, yeah, if she has any comments about our conversation, I'd love to hear that also.
Okay. Do we have another comment?
Good evening, all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right,
Name
thank you.
and
So
address for the record.
Stacy Minahan with Beals and Thomas, peer reviewer for the commission on this project. I just wanted to recommend that, and I agree with benchmarking the height to the dune at the start of construction. I do recall, Joel, as you noted, that was discussed before. I would recommend that notes like that be carried on the plans as opposed to just, in addition to a special condition, just to ensure that the contractor is aware of them. And then I guess I just wanted to note, as Joel indicated, there are a few comments outstanding. There's the one that he wanted to talk through, which was related to the ACEC. That was our comment 16. Also 5, 9, 10, 13, and 14 have not been fully addressed in terms of providing updated notice of intent forms and some of the more administrative things like notes on the plans that Joel mentioned. So nothing major, but just wanted to make sure that the commission does get responses to those if they desire them. And then finally, regarding the variance, I did just want to point out in the Gloucester wetlands ordinance, and I understand it seems like it's a little bit of a rock and a hard place situation with how it's drafted, but there is a requirement or a prohibition that no variances shall be allowed for any proposed work within a designated flood hazard area. So Joel, as you're submitting, documentation to support the variance, if any of the work is in the flood hazard area, I'd recommend addressing that item as well. That's on page 12 of the ordinance.
Thank you.
And I believe those were the main things that caught my attention during this discussion and that we had noted during our prior review. Thank you.
To touch
Thank
upon
you, Stacy.
her point, I said this prior to the meeting, so to get on the record also. Once we get the green light that the plans are final, then I can submit the updated NOI forms. I just don't want to send you guys draft to draft if, again, I have to look at Chuck's comment about the planting plan, like, again, that those are going to adjust any sort of numbers. I don't want to give you a bunch of different drafts. Once we get the plan locked, then it'll take no time to get this submitted.
Okay, and those will resolve the outstanding issues that she
So
just
some of
referenced.
them, yeah, some of them that she mentioned are about us updating the WPA forms to
Okay.
match.
And we'll resolve all of them.
Yeah, once the plan's locked, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I just made one last note. There were some conditions that the applicant has agreed to abide by, so I just want to make sure that those get noted in there.
And Mr. Cook, would you like to move for?
Okay, Commissioner Cook moves NOI 0283006 for 105 Wingershik Road and NOI 0283007 for 107 Wingershik Road to the meeting of September 17th.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Call member Cook,
Yes.
Yes.
member Terry,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, onwards.
Have a good night,
Next-
all.
You too.
Next up, we have NOI 0283020 to High Rock Terrace, Peter Carboni and Susan McNulty to raise and rebuild single-family home and the associated appurtenances and dune restoration within coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to coastal resource areas, represented by Devin Tabor, Lucas Environmental LLC. We have a representative for 2 High Rock Terrace.
She is promoting now.
Good evening, commission members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Name and address for the record, please.
Great. This is Devin Tabor with Lucas Environmental. I'm joined tonight also by attorney Joel Favazza, which he was there in person. I'm not too sure if he's still there, but also Christopher Lucas from Lucas Environmental, Dan Ottenheimer from Mill River. And then also on the call is the applicant, but I think she's just going to be in the background. I also believe Stacy Minahan from Beals and Thomas, the peer reviewer, is present.
Yes.
So we had a productive working session, as you all know. Chris Lucas stood in my place at the last meeting on August 20th. And it seems like our team's ready to move forward. We understand, obviously, the commission was looking for guidance and comments from Coastal Zone Management, specifically Ms. Haney. And I do not believe I received any written comments from her. So I was just going to check in with Chuck and you as the commissioners to see if anything has been provided to date or if you're expecting anything. Our team, again, would just like to proceed with addressing the outstanding engineering questions and design questions that Stacy and her team have provided in their initial comment letter.
Yeah, I have not received anything yet from Rebecca. Was on vacation and then she got sick, so she's been out of the office for only a period of time. Okay. We'll reach out to her again and see if she has anything additional to add.
Okay. Again, so this has just obviously been a long process here. We've addressed specifically 3 points regarding the dune delineation that Stacy and her team have provided and DEP. Our goal was to establish the precise limit of the primary frontal dune before submitting multiple iterations of the project redesign and plans. So, more or less, we just would like to open it up to the commission if they have any more questions, concerns, and hopefully kind of proceed forward and get something in front of you that kind of has the final design, hopefully satisfying Beals and Thomas, obviously, and keep a move on there. So does the commission have any other additional questions, comments, or concerns based upon, again, the working session, what we've provided, and then the public meeting on August 20th?
Okay, we're going to open this up for public comment first and then go through commissioner comments, at which point you can respond to everything at once, please. So we will open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to comment on the project at 2 Hard Rock Terrace?
We have nobody on the Zoom.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
No additional comments at this time.
I'm perfectly happy with moving forward. To me, the functional definition of the primary frontal dune, to me, seems reasonable, and it seemed reasonable to Beals and Thomas, and CZM, I think, has defaulted. So I'm comfortable moving forward.
Member Terry,
I don't have any more comments.
Member Jackson.
I have no additional comments. What about your thoughts on the subject? You want to wait to hear from Rebecca Haney?
No, not necessarily. I think the functional aspect has been discussed and I think a good basis for how we're looking at it. I mean, if there's still questions about exactly where the real line is, I think we can put that in a finding and say that we don't necessarily agree to any specific delineation of the primary frontal dune, but that for the purposes of this project, move forward with where it's delineated.
So this really comes down to the applicant. I mean, if it appears that the commission's comfortable with the delineations as they are. So it's really up to the applicant if they want to move forward based on our comfort level and anticipate that CZM doesn't make any radical changes. Then they can go ahead and finalize their plans and submit them at the next meeting. I'd be comfortable with that, but like I said, it's up to the applicant.
You have any input, Devin?
I mean, I think this is all very helpful, very, very appropriate at this time. I think more or less it is the goal to just keep this going forward and hopefully seek approval with you guys. And we want to make sure, everyone's happy here. And, including all the commission members and the applicant. So it would be our goal to definitely now take this meeting and run with it and get the design team together and get you something that would be finalized.
Okay.
And when would you like to come back?
I think it would be appropriate to just push us out the 2 weeks. And then if we need more time based upon team schedule, I'll reach out to Chuck directly and see if we need, because I know Stacy will probably need a go at it. So.
Okay. Then Commissioner Cook moves to move NOI 0283020 for 2 High Rock Terrace to the meeting of 9/17.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Roll call, Member Cook,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up, we have NOI 0283036 at 3, 6, and 7 Welch Lane and Rear Woodman Street, RDL Welch Lane LLC, for road and stormwater system construction, utility installation in buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, represented by Joel Favazza, Seaside Legal Solutions, PC.
Commissioner Sargent recuses.
Okay,
You guys are a 5-member board right now?
No.
Actually, 3 still count.
yeah, okay.
How many people have missed meetings though? We're keeping track of that.
Yeah, we've got a bare minimum here. Okay. Mr. Favazza.
For the record, Joel Favazza, Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street, here on behalf of the applicant, RDL Welch Lane LLC. As I'm sure the commission is aware, we received a written report back from the third-party reviewer based on their initial review of the site. They've given us some homework to do, and we're planning on, I think they've already begun working on getting out there to figure out what flags are missing, that sort of thing, and verify. My only question tonight before I request a continuance for 2 meetings is whether or not this commission has any additional concerns of their own they'd like to have addressed while we're out there doing this work to address the concerns raised by a third-party reviewer. If not, that's fine, but.
All right, let's open it up for public comment first, and then commissioner comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 3, 6, and 7 Welch Lane and Rear Woodman Street?
We have no hands up on the Zoom, but we do have one here.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your time. Ask some questions so we can get a little bit ahead in the front.
Your name and address for the
Ron
record,
Jello,
please.
647 Essex Ave, Gloucester, Mass. Thank you. I do have some questions for Joel, and it's first of all to the board. We're only looking at the bottom half of this project. We don't know the top half. We're looking at that part. So I'll stay with that part, but to remind everyone, we don't see the big picture yet. We've seen many different ideas for it. We had a duplex project with 52 units with a 24-foot driveway. On the plan that's proposed now, it's a 50-foot wide driveway. So the original was okay for 52 units, but now we're up to 50-foot wide roadway. And that's a big piece that we're opening up. I'm just wondering why we're getting so wide out there. One of the properties, 640 Essex Avenue, was brought up in the review, and that's why I speak of it. And it's from 2005, which is way back. If you look for 640 Essex Ave, I don't know where it is. There's no taxes paid on 640 Essex Ave. I looked today for it. So I don't even know where 640 Essex Ave is. I pay for my driveway. One would think that it's a piece of property that someone owns and pays taxes on. So I don't understand why it was 640 Essex Ave in 05, and now we're 3, 6, and 7 Welch Lane. So I question exactly what piece of property are we talking about? Is it 640? Is it 3, 6, and 7? Exactly what piece of property is that? That's being considered. In the 05, there was the Conservation Commission that put quite a bit of language in about the width of the road. Utilities should stay in the middle of the road. They shouldn't be out in the wetland or the buffering zone or wherever. They specifically said, leave them in the middle of the road. We're now outside that road. So all of these things I bring up now, so we don't come back, Joel, and have to have another
Yeah,
discussion.
no, I'm right about that. I appreciate it.
It would be helpful. In the print, it says 50-foot wide, but if you do the math for the sidewalk, the grass area and the roadway, it's only 44 feet, but on the print it says 50 feet. So I don't know why it's not, math should add up. Anywhere on that set of plans, that math, because that's important. That math should add up, and if anybody wants to see where I saw that, I'd show it to you. As always, I thank you for your time.
Very welcome. Okay, we're going to go through commissioner comments and then Mr. Favazza will respond to everything at once. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Still no hands up on Zoom and no
Okay,
other.
I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Cook,
No additional comments at this time.
Member Sergeant,
Accused.
Member Siri.
I have some comments from reviewing the prior orders of conditions and prior filings for this property. Appears to me, and I believe this was also addressed in Fields and Thomas peer review report. Proposed stormwater management facility number 1 is located in the area of buffer zone that was delineated in order of conditions 0281933. And the proposed stormwater management facility number 3 is located in the area of the buffer zone delineated in order of conditions 0281757. It appears at some point between the two orders, 3 Welch Lane was subdivided from a larger parcel. And the current 3 Welch Lane and 7 Welch Lane make up the area that was under review in order of conditions 0281757. For special condition 2 and special condition 3 in order of condition 0281933, the commission determined that the maximum cumulative use of the buffer area had been utilized by that proposed project. Special condition 2 states that, quote, the remaining area on this lot between the limits of work and the edge of the resource area is a designated no disturb zone under this decision. My interpretation of this is that it applies only to 3 Welch Lane, which only contains proposed stormwater facility number 1. Therefore, proposed stormwater facility number 1 cannot be located where it is currently proposed due to the no disturb condition in order of condition 0281933, special condition 2. Last conclusion of mine is special condition 3 states that quote, the commission conditions that the remainder of the buffer zone and resource area on this cumulative property may not be further impacted without a full habitat analysis of the wetland system, including vernal pool determination at a seasonally appropriate time of the year. I interpret this to apply to the cumulative property of 0281933 and 0281757, i.e. 3 and 7 Welch Lane. Therefore, proposed facility, stormwater facility number 3 requires a full habitat analysis for that special condition 3, or it may be considered for approval.
Can't say it as succinctly and more effectively as Mr. Viteri did. I also am very concerned about orders of condition and the special conditions. And I think the suggestion by the third party reviewer that, yeah, certificates of compliance for those prior to moving on. A good one. Mr. Shea, do you have comments?
I don't have anything additional. I think there's a lot of loose ends that were identified by Weston and Sampson on their review.
Okay, you're on, Mr. Favazza.
Yeah, so I appreciate Mr. Jeleno's concerns. I think it'll make sense if it's okay I'll reach out offline to connect with Mr. Jeleno and have a conversation about a lot of the concerns were of a planning nature, et cetera. I mean, there are a lot of jurisdictional things that we have to discuss in this hearing. As Mr. Furio's comments, understood. And like I said previously, we're working through the homework given to us by a third-party reviewer. So if we can push this out for 2 meetings, and hopefully give us time to get a response in and get the reviewer some time to respond to our response before we talk again.
Okay, so you wanted to push this out for, is that okay with you if Mr. Favazza reaches out to you? Oh, absolutely. You want to push this out for 2 meetings, which would be October what? October 1st. Any other comments that need to be made prior to doing this? Mr. Cook, you're on.
Yep, okay, so it's gonna be to the October 1st meeting?
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Cook moves NOI 028-3036 for 3, 6, and 7 Welch Lane to the meeting of October 1st.
Second.
Somebody get a second?
Mr. Viteri, seconds.
Roll call, Member Cook
Yes.
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay. Next up, we have NOI 028-076, Western Avenue. Trustees of Reservations, Ned Darling, for removal and repair of bog bridges and bordering vegetated wetlands, represented by Ned Darling, Trustees of Reservations. For the record, Mr. Sargent has returned.
I am not seeing Ned listed here. I believe that they're likely just planning to continue. Yeah, so they had to do a MISA review with Natural Heritage.
Yeah.
And still underway. I wasn't sure if he was planning to speak to some other questions that at the last meeting, but it's not appears here, so we'll move it to the next meeting.
Okay. You want to continue it, Bill?
Yeah, Commissioner Cook moves NOI 028-3076, 481 Western Avenue to the meeting of 9/17.
Commissioner Sargent, second.
Roll call, Member Cook.
Yes.
Sergeant?
Yes.
Member Viteri?
Yes.
And Member Jackson?
Yes. Okay, next up, we have NOI, still an unassigned DP number for Raven Lane, owned by Hawthorne Point Condominium Association, for repair and after the fact permitting for work on an existing retaining wall and land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to coastal resource area, represented by Thorson Akerley at Williams and Sparages LLC.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thorson Akerley, professional wetland scientist with Williams and Sparages, representing the Hawthorne Point Condominium Association. We, at the last hearing, Commissioner Sargent had requested some additional information on the unpermitted section of retaining wall that was constructed behind units 14 through 24, and some additional discussion about regulatory compliance, the location of the wall, where it lied on our plan. So we did update the permit site plan, hatching a section of the line where it appears that the retaining wall was constructed around 2008 without a permit. We used the best information we could, which right now is just aerial photography from pre and post 2008 or so. We did talk with the condominium board to see if any of the members were serving on the board at the time None of the members that were serving then are currently on the board, so it's completely turned over. Some of the members still live in the association, but it was so long ago that no one could really remember why or exactly how the wall was constructed. But what we can say, is that the wall very closely mirrors the surrounding wall. It's the same height as the stone and masonry wall that surrounds the area. It was about 25 or so feet long section. I'll share my screen here if the members haven't had a chance to um, look themselves briefly. Um, So it was this section right here, right when the wall starts to bend, over to this section here. This section of the wall and this section here were existing prior to that 2008 or so date. So again, this was about 25 or so linear feet of wall. And in a review of the aerial photography, what we could see was that it was constructed along roughly the edge of the existing lawn at the time, or right along. There was what appeared to be a large ledge outcrop right on the edge there. And our best assumption is that the area probably sloped more than it does now towards the water, at least in that section. For some reason, the walls weren't closed off. I don't know why. And naturally, with the building so close to the water, it's reasonable to assume that somebody in the association got very nervous with wave action because the property, the entirety of this building right here is in the flood zone as well. So I'm sure there was a lot of concern about potential damage to the building, which is why they added the section. And then as far as regulatory compliance, the Wetlands Protection Act does say specifically that retaining walls, coastal engineering structures can be constructed on coastal banks. It's not. It is a fairly common occurrence, especially on sites like this where you have rock outcrops or hardened surfaces to help protect buildings. Typically, it's for sites that have existing buildings like these ones. The only reason you couldn't do it is if the coastal bank or dune was around the site and the area's upgrading of the coastal bank provided sediment, sand sources to a coastal beach or dune below. And in this property's case, we don't have that. All we have are ledge outcrops and rocky intertidal shores below the wall, and obviously a very developed area above the wall and hardened surfaces and the buildings. So that's essentially what we found. We did mention this in the prior notice of intent in 2023. I know we didn't get into as much detail on it then, but the commission did want us to include it as part of that notice of intent filing when we filed that for the repair of this section of wall then. So I hope that addresses the concerns and questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions as well. And Sue Dolan is here from the association as well if you have any questions for her. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We'll open this up for public comment and then go through commissioner comments and then give you a chance to respond. Anyone in the public who wishes to comment on the project at Raven Lane?
We do have one hand up on Zoom, T. Joseph Robert.
Hey, good evening, Madam Chair, and to the Commission. I don't know if you can see me. My video isn't showing on my end, but I hope you can hear me at the very least.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Representing Max and Denise Arai of 18 Raven Lane at the Hawthorne Point Townhouse Condominiums.
Okay.
I just re-allege what my client had raised at the previous hearing and what was submitted prior to this hearing, which is that the retaining wall at issue was not permitted and it wasn't constructed properly, and there was no stormwater management report submitted with the NOI. A little bit of context for the commission. This is relevant because the retaining wall is directly in front of, or I guess in the back of my client's property at 18 Raven Lane. So there's this retaining wall that runs to the side of where the seawall is. It's true that it's at about the same level, but the problem is that it wasn't constructed properly. It's resulted in a number of sinkholes directly behind the wall, not on the seaside, but on the land side of the wall itself. due to improper sealing. And what it is essentially is it's a coastal bank where a wall was constructed at some point, and it's resulted in a lot of issues. And it's particularly relevant with the lack of the stormwater management report because there is a stormwater system on the locus. It may not be directly next to this retaining wall, but the problem is that all the water on the property is flowing down the locus towards the wall past unit 18. And if the wall wasn't constructed properly, which it wasn't, it's going to be a serious issue, and it is currently a serious issue. And so although it's true that retaining walls may be permitted, this one wasn't, and therefore review is appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Cook?
I just want to confirm, we don't have a number, Chuck?
We do not. There's an email earlier today from DEP saying they had everything they needed to get the number, but it's still, I just checked a moment ago, it's still not posted.
Okay, I have no additional questions.
Sergeant?
Yes, thank you for including the dimensions and the extent of the unpermitted wall that was built into the coastline. Or believe there needs to be some compensatory mitigation similar to what have been proposed if this were a newly proposed project. I believe the portion of the NOI that addresses repair to sinkholes is adequate. Thank you.
Member Terry?
Yeah, I think the after the fact filing kind of addresses and cures any unpermitted work. So I'm fine with that being part of it. I do think you probably need to put together a stormwater report. You have the checklist, but the checklist does say it's not a substitute for a report itself. If you have something from DEP that says that the checklist is fine, I'd say submit that for us to look at. But barring that, I think it's probably not much effort to put together a stormwater report, given that it seems like not all of the conditions are applicable. And I know part of that stormwater requirement is to have an operation and maintenance plan. So I would say, as a condition to be included in an operation maintenance plan is that the weep holes be checked annually for clogging.
Member Jackson?
I have no additional comments or voice apparently. Okay. Mr. Akerley?
Thank you, members. I guess my only questions would be for Mr. Sargent regarding the mitigation. I presume some kind of compensation relative to the linear feet of the wall in the form of native plantings on the property is what you and the commission would be looking for.
I would be happy with that. Some habitat was taken away by the construction of the wall. If you create it doesn't even have to be similar habitat. You create meaningful habitat as, a mitigation. I'd be happy with that.
Okay. And then again, I know we've had a lot of discussion about the stormwater report. We've certainly hammered home that, the preparation of a stormwater report is designed to address new impervious surfaces, new BMPs, which aren't proposed as part of this project. I sympathize with the abutter here about stormwater concerns on the property, but those are things that need to be taken up with the association, talking about the building and things near near the ocean like that. But we will talk to DEP. I did have an informal conversation with them a few weeks ago about stormwater report versus checklist. They thought a checklist was appropriate, but we'll get that in writing. And we don't have a file number. We did exchange emails with Georgia Pendergast, the analyst assigned to this project, and she said she had no technical comments, but we still don't have a file number. So.
Okay, so are you happy with continuing this to the next meeting?
I don't think I have a choice.
You'd be happier if you didn't. Okay. Bill?
Yep, Commissioner Cook moves NOI 028, no DEP number for Raven Lane to the meeting of 9/17.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Roll call, member Cook,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, on to new business. First up is, have we got any DEP numbers for other, I know there's one for Yale County Road.
Yes. So
Any
for,
others?
640 Washington, it's 3083.
Which one is that, Chuck?
The next one up, 640 Washington Street,
Yep. What number?
3083.
3083. Okay. What about the next one? Did we get one for that?
Atlantic Street and Atlantic Avenue is 3084.
Old Country Road?
Yule County Road is 3082.
Let's try Washington Street.
That one is still waiting a number as well.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. First up is NOI 0283083 at 640 Washington Street. Mary Megan Quinlan for seawall repair and replace existing retaining wall in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource areas, represented by Mary Megan Quinlan.
So you have the presentation, I believe.
Pull up here.
Okay, so you know my name and my address.
Okay, your address is 640 Washington. Okay, yes.
So first I'll say, when I asked the agent about the seawall, I didn't expect that I would need to do an NOI, and I've discovered that everyone was out of town, so I had no advisors available at the time. And I launched into doing this application. So the supplement is a more reliable source when I was able to get my attorney and well, you see from the site map that Mill River is done. So this gives you a sense of the location. At the advice of our conservation agent, I did include fisheries, and they've come back and said that they did not have any concerns. The seawall, as from my perspective, is a minor maintenance. The rest of the seawall had been taken care of under Chapter 91, but this going up, it goes upland, and about halfway up is where is beyond the mean height level. And I never actually asked, but I kind of assume that I can show you that there's a bit of a gap between where the fence sitting on cinder block and where the seawall is. And I believe what we're proposing is going to actually stabilize the area more. So this is the schematic, and I'm sorry, the next one is not as clear, but what I tried to do was put everything is along the boundary. So I've tried, the links are rounded up or down, but there are these 5 areas. First is just the seawall, which has been there for, well, we think since 1910 or so. It just needs some maintenance. It's not going to be changing, like expanding. It's not going to be moving, but it does have some gaps and need mortar and some additional stone. Just above that is an area that I'll talk about more, which is where there are some granite blocks, but it's not continuous. Above that area is an existing fence that's on a cinder block foundation. The house that was built in 1959 is 7 feet back, so that's the strip of 7 feet that goes along that area. And then there are granite steps that there's no additional work to do, and an existing retaining wall, which I added once I knew that I needed to do an NOI because so the conservation agent did not go and look at that. And I don't intend to do that immediately, but I gather I'd have 3 years. So the seawall, it's on the right. The property next door at 642 has structures less than 2 feet from the boundary, so they look very close, but there shouldn't be any problem standing in that area. Work would be by hand, but obviously some machinery is required and it would stay on the land. There will be some noise when cement mixer is running and things like that. So the area that is kind of new is, it's hard to show, but because of this kind of gap, there's bits of stone and dirt, but there isn't the foundation for the fence and there isn't the seawall. It's just kind of peters out from both directions. So that's the part that, if my neighbor agrees, we can remove some of the debris, but whether we do that or not, on my property, it would be built up to be more of a continual wall until it reaches the cinder block base of the fence. All of the vegetation there is volunteer. Trying to get a better identification, but it's the kind of thing that you hack it down every year, it comes back. So I'm not expecting that it'll disappear, but we will be removing some as we're working on the stone. And then going up along this boundary is a fence, and that will require, because of the age of the structure, and it's fallen down some already, and is to put a new foundation underneath it, a new wood fence, and the fence then would be uniform all the way to the top of the property. And the granite steps are part of why the elevation is already at 16 feet by the time you get to the front of the house. The retaining wall has had a fence, it's less than 5 feet. It's certainly less than 6. And so when I've spoken to the building department, I am working on a permit, but I don't need an engineering plan, which I thought I did. So we can strike that from my proposal. And it will require moving. Everything's just kind of overgrown from both directions. So I'm most concerned about, there's a maple tree that I want to protect the roots. We'll be quite careful, but it will require equipment to move the dirt out and rebuild. And this is, so I've only been coming to the house for 27 years since I met my husband and married into the family. But the comment that the retaining wall was affected because of the backfill, well, it was built for that reason. So I presumed it was built by 1959, but I can't say that for sure. It's certainly been there in this way since I've been around. So what we're proposing is to do basically the same thing that's there now, that's lasted all these years. And, add some planting further from the boundary so that it doesn't grow up over the retaining area. So that's it's quite a long strip, but it's not wide. The questions put forth by the state were addressed in the supplement. All of the resource areas that are affected by this, we don't feel there is significant impact. It's very temporary. In fact, I've learned a lot from going through this process. We've always had a fence without places for wildlife, and there's all sorts of things that I wasn't aware of. If it seems appropriate to put a hay bale on that part where we're trying to add some stone, but I leave it to your knowledge to tell us what's the best conditions to do the work. I just added those. They're hidden slides, but just in case somebody wanted to see a better version, that just shows the natural slope that it's going up above the flood line. The flood zone is still up to covering most of the existing seawall. But and the mean high tide is at the seawall that fronts the marsh there. It's hard to see, but it's along that line, basically. So I believe that that's all that I need to report.
Okay, what we do is open this up for public comment and then commissioner comments. You could respond to any questions that may be raised. I'd appreciate it. Okay, so we'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project of 640 Washington Street?
Yes. I'm Marshall Handley. I'm an attorney with Handley and Cox and Beverly. I'm here on behalf of Robert Zerby. It's with me, who is the direct abutter to this property at 642 Washington Street. As you can see from the materials that have been submitted, there are a series of dwelling units along this property line which are within inches of the proposed work. And one of those is occupied by a woman who has recently undergone very dramatic surgery and is recuperating and working from the cottage directly adjacent to where this proposed work is going on. When the work was undertaken there earlier this summer, the noise of the machinery that was being used was physically painful and disturbing for this woman. As I said in my letter to the commission of August 26th, we recognize and appreciate and support the maintenance of the walls, seawalls, and protection of the resource areas here, but it really has to be done in recognition of the extraordinary circumstances that apply here. And with respect to the wall that's been described as a cinder block foundation, I think that that's the wall that's shown here.
Yes.
It's not really a foundation. If you look at this plan, you can see that it's a retaining wall that was constructed in order to construct this house. The 640 is the newcomer to the neighborhood. The rest of these properties have been here for hundreds of years, but this wall was erected in order to allow that land to be filled and this house to be built on it. It has failed in the time since it was erected, and it has failed unquestionably because of the pressure of the fill that has been placed behind it. To suggest that it can be replaced casually by just redoing the concrete blocks, I think just begs a recurrence of the problem, particularly when this plan shows another lift of loam that's being placed on top. You're substantially increasing the pressure on that wall. And I haven't measured the wall myself, but it is a barrier wall between these two properties. It's shown at grade level on this Quinlan side, but in fact from Mr. Zerby's side, it's quite a monument. And I would be surprised to learn that it is not at 6 feet in height, but in any event, it seemed to make sense to me that if this is going to be replaced as a retaining wall, that some engineering be required of it to ensure that it actually continues to function in accordance with its stated purpose as a retaining wall to hold back this sand, gravel, stone, and loam lift that is being placed on it. And to describe it as a foundation for the fence, I think is also something of a mischaracterization. The Massachusetts law allows fences of up to 6 feet, but that is from base grade, and base grade in this case is the grade on Mr. Zerbe's side of the wall. I just want to be careful that characterization of it as a foundation is not accepted as a basis for the measurement of the base of a 6-foot fence, because this area is becoming increasingly fortified as new people move in, and it really derogates from the character of the neighborhood, light, the passage of air and water, and that have characterized and preserved the area for the hundreds of years it's been occupied by Mr. Zerbe and Mr. Zerbe.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment?
We have no hands up on the Zoom and none others here.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
No, I know it's going to be a very tight area, but I think if, perhaps some of the work that's being done there, is run by, the building inspector, just to ensure that, it meets the city standards for the wall. We don't get into property line disputes. So it's on the applicant to ensure that there is no creep, but that's it.
Sergeant?
I agree with Commissioner Cook. I'd like to have the building inspector sign off if the cinder block wall somehow needs to be engineered, some kind of a sign off, to check or more formally. If the maple tree gets damaged, I'd like that to be replaced 2-to-1 mitigation. I'd like a condition that all work be within the same footprint and all work will be by hand.
Siri?
How much of the work on your plan is covered on the Chapter 91 license?
Well, I'm assuming none of it at this point, but I thought after I get this, I would go back and make sure if we needed to amend that. The reason that we sought the Chapter 91 is because this property's been in the family for more than 50 years, which is nothing compared to the 1800s of my neighbor. And a winter storm destroyed the walkway to the dock. So we were addressing the fact that we needed to change a wooden structure into a gangplank and bring the dock in slightly. And so the Chapter 91 focused on that front part. It didn't focus on the side going up between the properties.
Do you have a Chapter 91 license?
Yes.
And it's only for that front part of the wall?
Well, that's initially, I emailed and said, a year ago, I emailed and said, oh, I'm looking to do maintenance. And the conservation agent said, oh, that's covered by your Chapter 91. When he came to visit on this occasion, I said, now I'd like to go up this part. Because originally I was just going to do the seawall maintenance. And that's when he said, well, maybe this is more complicated. And
Okay,
so
so-
then I went ahead and added the other part.
So the side wall that you're working on in this proposal, that's not part of the Chapter 91 license?
Well, at least part of it is, but
Which part?
well, the first half or so is under the Chapter 91, but the focus of the Chapter 91 was the front part because of moving the dock slightly closer to the.
I understand that, but part of it is under chapter 91. I just want to know how much of this proposed work is covered under chapter 91 license.
Well, we haven't gone back to confirm on that because I guess it's the order of events. I thought I needed,
No, but you have a license and it should have dimensions on it of how much the location of where your
Yes.
wall is. And if some of it's part of the sidewall, it should have dimensions of how much of that 30 feet, making up a number.
30 feet is what I've seen on that documentation. I wasn't personally as involved. It was entirely done by Mill River with my late husband being the liaison. But what I understood was we needed to do more. And so after this, then I'm going back to finalize the building permit and I'll go back to chapter 91 to say, okay, do we need to amend the chapter 91 based on this additional area?
Right.
So we understand it's not, this is not chapter 91 and this is not building and so forth.
I know, but if you have part of this wall that you're trying to do work on, that's covered under your chapter 91 license, it's exempt here. So that portion of it, if it's the first 30 feet of
Yes.
that wall from the high water line up the side, that part is exempt under that. So
Yes.
anything.
Well,
it's good
that's
for us
why
To know that.
originally I didn't expect I would need to do anything, but since,
Well, but you're going beyond what's licensed. So
Yeah.
that new stuff is more work in the resource area.
Yes.
So, okay. I just have a couple conditions for any work. To address butters' concerns, first condition would be to mark the dimensions and locations of the existing wall elements prior to start of work. Two, perform all work by hand. I'd measure the fence from the base of the retaining wall. Four, I'd use one condition to use a tarp or other protective measures for work in ending the land seaward of mean high water. And have that work to be done at low tide and all debris to be removed from resource on completion or during the course of the work.
Member Jackson.
I have no additional comments. Do you want to respond to anything else that has been brought up here by the attorney or sergeant, or do you have any comments, Chuck, before we get into that?
No, I think the conditions that have been brought up are good. I do think a lot of the concerns are not necessarily things that Conservation Commission decides over.
yes, and I delivered a full package to my neighbor so that he would know what was going on and not have to try to seek it out. And I'm not intending on working on the retaining wall this year. I had thought I'd get on with the seawall, which, as I said, initially I thought I could do, but now I've got all of this in. I kept adding more because of going through the process of an NOI. And I appreciate the historic nature of the area. While newcomers, it has been in the family for a long time. And we will continue to be there for at least my son's lifetime. I don't know what will happen after that, but so it's an important resource for us. And certainly that maple tree is one that I particularly want to protect. I talked to an arborist. Any work can affect, I guess maple trees maybe are a bit sensitive. And I would certainly replace the tree if it didn't come through in a healthy way, but I'm hoping to keep it.
If it does die, we brought it 2-1. So plenty of say to placement for the one.
Yes, just further from the property line, of course.
And I guess I did have one comment. I wanted to thank you for all of the information that you provided. It's very orderly and very complete.
Well, I appreciate the indulgence because it was certainly not what I was intending to do while I was working in Europe. And I was in a couple of different countries working and I kept trying to answer questions, but I've certainly learned a lot. And I don't honestly think I have another project on the property after this, but if I do, I'll seek professional advice sometime other than August.
Well, if I can just add, she's been very good with providing information to the abutters. It's very helpful. As we said, support the maintenance work. It's just
Refreshing to hear this.
Yeah. Well, I'll say out of the list from the tax records, I already knew 3 of them were incorrect. So I did what I was supposed to do, and then I provided things to the people at where they really are. And one property had just sold, so, I'm not trying to hide anything, and I think it might encourage everyone in the neighborhood to come to the commission more than they have been, perhaps.
And that's always appreciated, but we often have people coming in saying, I didn't get any notification. We appreciate you taking care of that. Sounds like she's being very cooperative.
Okay, do you need me to close the meeting?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on.
Commissioner Cook, close the public meeting for NOI 028-3083 for 640 Washington Street.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Member Cook.
Yes?
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Cook moves to approve NOI 028-3083 with the aforementioned conditions.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Member Cook.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Thank you. I was dragging it out a little because I'm used to much longer meetings. Right. Okay, so you're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is NOI 028-3084 Atlantic Street at Atlantic Avenue, right of way, City of Gloucester, for culvert replacement in land subject to coastal storm flowage riverfront area and coastal resource areas represented by Bill Ross, New England Civil Engineering.
Let's see. Oh, there you go.
This is my first attempt at a in-person Zoom meeting.
Talk about hybrid.
Yeah, I'll see if I can share my screen here. My name is Bill Ross with New England Civil Engineering from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm here representing the City of Gloucester Works Department. On a project you're all probably very familiar with, the Atlantic Street culvert, which feeds Sleepy Hollow Pond to the Jones River. This map shows where it is. The old GIS or USGS map of the stream is inaccurate. Put it up the arrow. Project is positioned and a number of resources, but virtually the entire project is within the 200-foot riverfront buffer as well as land subject to coastal storm flowage. The flood zone. This is the existing culvert on the upstream end. See, it's a stacked granite stone culvert about 2 foot 6 inches wide, about 1 foot 7 inches high. The second photo shows if you look in the culvert from the upstream side, it is partially collapsed. As you see, the very small window of light going through there. So the actual openness is much smaller. This is the undisturbed portion. A few years ago, you're all familiar with a contractor putting a water main under it and it collapsed. So the city had these pipes on hand that they were going to replace this in the past. It's a 3 foot box culvert that was installed in the lower to downstream half. Looking up the box culvert, you see how it aligns with the granite about halfway through the street. So the box culvert downstream provides a much greater openness, but it is positioned on top of the stream bed. This photo doesn't really do it justice, but it is resting right on the stream. So there was no soil in between, on top of the box culvert. So the city proposed, because of its condition and its collapsing under the road, we wanted to replace the entire culvert with this 3x3 box. So we had talked about replacing it in kind, as you see here, or recessing the 3x3 box deeper into the stream bed, so it'll better meet the stream channel, but you will lose some openness. After meeting with Chuck on site, we discussed ways to make it larger. So the design we're proposing is it's a 5-foot circle box culvert. Sorry, a 5-foot circle or a 5-foot by 5-foot box. So this shows how in the profile view up here, the box, what I forgot to mention is there's a telephone duct bank on the upstream side, which is limiting the ability to raise the culvert. So we're bound by that telephone duct bank. So putting a 5-foot culvert in here will result in it being embedded more than half, about 2.5, almost 3 feet embedment with the 2-foot vertical. The existing culvert at 2'6" wide and 1 foot high has an existing bank full ratio of 0.087, so not even close to meeting stream standards. If we put in a 5-foot circle, we'll end up with a 0.144 openness, or a 5x5 box culvert would be 0.210. So the box would be embedded in the ground, and on the upstream and downstream ends, there would be a precast head wall as shown in the detail. The area surrounded in red is the proposed disturbed area. Second area in red is a temporary disturbance, which would be surrounded by erosion sedimentation controls for soil stockpiles as well as dewatering. The stream does not flow much during dry conditions, but we would attempt to keep it flowing by bypass pumping from the upstream side to the downstream side. This is a picture of the bypass pumping. So there's a series of pumps that would pump to this area, pump clean water over the stream. During construction to dewater it, we'd have 2 well points, one at the upstream side and one on the downstream. The downstream side. Those would be pumped through sedimentation bags, which are also contained by straw wattle barrier, and they would discharge into the catch basin, as you see on that plan, which would then ultimately discharge back into the stream. Got a couple of extra barriers of silt fence downstream, further aid in the silt out. The construction zone itself would be surrounded on the upstream and downstream side by driven steel sheets, sandbags. So it would be a cofferdam, attempt to keep it dewatered. The pumps would be well points where you would dig a hole and put a perforated PVC pipe, essentially creating a groundwater well on each side, and you pump the water down and treating it. As far as the resource areas, 62 square feet of EVW on the upstream side, which could be removed and restored with conservation seed mix. On the downstream side, there's 153 square feet roughly of salt marsh that would be disturbed. We'd be able to replant roughly half of it. The other half would be a reduction in salt marsh. So we've identified on the upstream area, which I didn't circle it, but right in this area, I'll show you in the photos. Thoughts for mitigation would be to remove an accumulation of large boulders that have been placed by man in the marsh with the supervision of the agent. Some of them may have a function in erosion control, but there's an awful lot of excess boulders stacked in there, which looks like a stone wall that's been pushed over, let's say. So if we remove those rocks from the marsh and we replant those areas, it seems like our best chance to replicate. On the downstream end, we would have rebuilt the walls with stones that are existing, and we would have a stilling well with stones that are stacked on the inlet and the outlet, semicircular pattern to slow the water down as it passes through. Photos again. So these are some photos of the upstream and downstream. And as you can see, there's some armor stone. This photo here. As we go farther upstream, the stone's running along the edge of the road, and the first photo on the right continues on. So we would be removing those stones equal to, goal would be twice the square footage of the area disturbed at the outlet. The reason why we've proposed, we would prefer to do the 5-foot round culvert because it's readily available, procured within a month. Chuck asked that we also look into a 5-foot box culvert, which doesn't give us that much more openness because it is going to be more than half buried. That would take about 3 months to manufacture. So based on this schedule of the permitting, I'd like to have the option to do both unless you have a strong preference for either. The goal would be to build this in the late winter, early spring. And the traffic is another consideration, which I didn't mention initially. This is a fairly narrow 2-lane road and there's no detour available. So the project will have to be built in halves where we're doing all the work on one side of the road, letting cars alternate on one side. So it's going to be very difficult to manage traffic. Doing it in the winter, early spring would be the goal there. Although this is not a fish run, there has been total evidence of eels in the river that have not been counted up the stream, but that run occurs in April, May, I believe, so we'd be attempting to finish before, I think it's May 1st. I'm going to jump around. I have a lot more photos of things stream, farther downstream. Chuck asked that we not only measure the stream upstream and downstream, but go well downstream. So stream channel is consistent from about 30 feet, 50 feet out to 200 feet downstream. It is 3 foot wide with vertical walls. So in essence, the stream bed width and the bankful width are the same all the way out to the Jones River. We can't say I traversed it all the way out to the Jones River, but we went out a few hundred feet. That's the photo on the left there. The resulting bankful width would be approximately 4 feet in this scenario. Box culvert would give you a couple inches more of bankful width. Both of them would increase, meeting the stream crossing standards in that regard. Improving the the openness ratio. No way to get the full 6 foot, which would be a fully meeting the stream crossing. And as far as embedment depth, we would be more than 2 feet embedded into the substrate. Attempt to salvage existing soils, stockpile them. We'll need more than we excavate, so we would bring in the detail, the culvert would be filled. The bottom 1 to 2 feet would be crushed stone, essentially, and we would mix in sand and the removed soils. We do the sieve analysis on the existing sediment upstream and downstream. Does not have too many fines, so there's no requirement to do environmental sampling on it. So we should be able to bring in new sand that matches. Lastly, I didn't mention the as part of the project, the water main. Shown here, the water main will, this is the cause of the collapse to begin with. They relayed the water main underneath the culvert and it collapsed. There's no records on how deep they made it. We fully expect to run into it again. So because for us to embed the 5-foot culvert, we're going to need 8 foot depth. So we would be doing a temporary water bypass from the hydrant at Castle View to the hydrant at Atlantic Avenue. Up ground, we would cut in new valves as shown in black. Bypass pump it. And when we excavate for the culvert, we would lay water main underneath it first, then proceed to relay the culvert.
Okay, anything else to add?
It's the thing I've got teed up, but certainly I can zoom in on any photo of, any photo or detail you'd like to hear more about.
I will open this up for public comment and then commissioner comments, and then we may have some responses to create.
Sure.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at Atlantic Street at Atlantic Avenue? Right.
We have one hand up on Zoom, Robert Bishop. There, Robert?
Where the culvert comes across from the pillars to the marsh, just beyond that going towards Wingasheek, they did do water line work there as well, which is dipping significantly. So I just didn't know, is that part of this project to be repaired as well? Because right now it's about a good, probably 10, 12-inch dip over there. So I didn't know if this is part of the same added on with the culvert, or that going to be just left the way that it is at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Bishop, could we have your address for the record, please? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment?
There are no other hands up on Zoom and none here.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Cook?
Very familiar with the area, and the project. I'm glad to see that, it's gonna be moving forward. And it's a tough spot, so I guess my only real concerns is, when we do the work, we're gonna need to make sure we get notifications out to the people that live down there, be it billboards on the side of the road, or whatnot, letting them know that the work's coming, and that, because it's at some point, when you go by the pillars, when you start to do the work in front of the pillars, they're going to have to open the gates, and we're gonna have to let traffic go out, from the private section out the back gate. It'll be the only way to get around. So they're gonna need to do that. I know what the previous person just mentioned, that big divot. It's where the pipe work was done. I don't think it's part of this project, but I think it needs to be brought to the city's attention. Again, that it needs to get repaired because it is a significant dip that's in the road. That's it.
Sergeant?
I'm really glad this is coming forward. In addition to the cited references for the culvert replacement, it's also noted in the NOAA's Gloucester Aquatic Habitat Restoration Planning Report and in the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries Diadromous Fish Restoration Priority List. Quite obviously, the round pipe culvert option 2 doesn't meet the criterion of maximum extent possible, as the box culvert design option 1 comes closer to the stated goal of the maximum extent possible. Based on personal observations, believe that the culvert is freshwater tidal, and recall that there was a question if this culvert is jurisdictional for Chapter 91 based on inferred contemporary high water. Do you know if that issue has been resolved? And I would like Shellfish and DMF comments on the project, as the culvert is a diadromous fish passageway. And for mitigation, besides removing, the granite blocks, for mitigation from the salt marsh, I'm wondering if you might look into perhaps invasive species removal, because I think further up along Atlantic Street, there's, as I recall, there's some invasive species. And I know further down, there's at least Phragmites, maybe some other ones. So if you could at least look at that, if that may be an option. And I definitely don't want pesticides sprayed over the whole area. So that wouldn't be something you should be looking at. But thank you for finally bringing this forward. but we have one chance to do it, and I think we need to do it right. And so I'm strongly in favor of the box culvert.
Member Terry.
I'm assuming there'd be an operations and maintenance plan, but if not, one is required under the regulations, and the implementation has to be a continuing condition. It's section 1024 now.
Jackson.
I have no additional comments. I also welcome the project. Okay. Would you like to respond?
Sure, I'm not sure how far down the dip in the water trenches they have it. I didn't notice it the last time, but that is not specifically part of it, but we would be paving section road we're working on. So certainly we would be paving something adjacent. If it is settled 10 inches, as you stated, I'll talk to the DPW and see if they can go out and fill that now. That.
Did you address Mr. Bishop's comment?
That was just.
That was it. That was it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we certainly will.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't already. As far as notification, the city is trying to get the public construction works page on different projects, and they send out, so I'm not sure exactly how they notify the public to the city website, but this would be one of the projects that would have the project plans and schedule posted on the city website, as well as probably the reverse 911 approach to notify people of the coming, and the message board certainly makes sense. Chapter 91 licenses, there's definitely no Chapter 91 license for the structure currently.
And you'll be checking with the Virginia Fisheries and the Shellfish Coast.
I believe they were copied on the document.
Yeah, DMF reached out to me today, and they do plan to provide comments. They will not have that until the next meeting, and the same with Shellfish.
Did you copy Shellfish? We don't.
I reached out to them.
Okay, we copied Fisheries, but we sent it to Shellfish.
Okay, so this sounds like a continuation to the next meeting? September 17th.
Pending, waiting for their comments, right?
Yeah. September 17th. And maybe you could look at the invasives.
I'm not sure how to answer that. Certainly wasn't. This project was addressed to fix the specific problem of the culvert. Sure, if the DPW was the appropriate route to address invasives.
Well, what you said is there's going to be a loss in salt marsh vegetation. And so for mitigation, you're going to be removing some of the boulders that were further up.
Mm-hmm.
That opened that door. So mitigation is in that general area for for invasive species. So I recall trying to go over that area where those boulders are, and I seem to recall that there was some vines there, and those are invasive. And,
okay.
And if they could be removed.
Certainly, yeah, that makes sense. Now, in the same area, we're talking about removing the boulders to clean up the
Yeah,
invasives.
or if you go up, like 5 feet from the boulders,
Yeah,
you're
for
not
sure.
going to get upset either. So.
No, yeah.
Right.
I was thinking more when you said downstream, there's phragmites out in the marsh. I'm like, I don't know.
Down there too, and I think there may be other invasives starting to come into that area.
Sure. Yeah,
This is the upper salt marsh where there's, high tide bush and stuff like that. So.
Yep.
Okay, Bill, you want to continue this?
Yep, Commissioner Cook moves NOI 0283084 for Atlantic Street and Atlantic Avenue to the meeting of 9/17.
Commissioner Sergeant seconds?
All member Cook,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
member Terry,
yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, I'm going to excuse myself briefly. Can you start this one, please?
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
All right, next up is NOI 0283082, 47 Yield County Road. Joseph Borland. single-family home and septic system in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource areas. John Judd, Gateway Consultants Incorporated, representing.
Thank you very much, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Joe Borland, who is here tonight. Chuck, I'm assuming you can bring up the plan. It's just one plan that we have. This is a proposed ADU that Joe is proposing to build on the family property. They've owned the property for many years, and you can see on the site plan, if not, I can describe it to you, that it's a 2-acre property, and it's on Rust Island, and it's currently being serviced by the new town water, city water supply that Bill has been overseeing over in Rust Island. And there's an existing cottage on the property, and Joe is going to be proposing this ADU property, allow his mother to age in place. At the top of the screen, you can't really see it, but there's an existing small building. Thank you. Yeah, right in that area there. So it's a good sized property. It's in the R10 zoning district. So there was some thoughts about maybe coming in with a Form C subdivision off of Old County Road. And I think this is a pretty thoughtful way to sort of preserve this 2 acres where, you know, you have 10,000 square foot zoning potential for more lots is there. However, the limitations on this property include shallow ledge, and there's steep slope, shallow ledge, but there's also this utility easement that bisects the property, and it's a right of way that's been through land court, and it's essentially granted to Mass Electric to go right across the property. There's a small road that goes in through there, as Chuck is showing. It's slightly outside the easement in a lot of the places, but you can see it bisects the property. Soil testing was done on the property by others for Joe in the past for on-site disposal. And you can see there's a lot of test pits there shown on the site plan. Joe was able to find suitable soil depths, and we do have an approved advanced treatment septic system it was approved by the Board of Health earlier this year to service the proposed structure. This new septic system will serve not only the new structure, but the existing structure. So we're going to be cleaning up the area, so to speak, in terms of on-site disposal. Advanced treatment with recorded operations and maintenance contracts and so forth. So really the best we can do with advanced treatment and also pressure distribution for the leaching area for both the proposed and the existing structures. So the resource areas include the 200-foot riparian zone to the mean high water of the Annisquam River. We do have coastal bank here that was delineated by Bill Manuel, and we do have salt marsh and buffer zone associated with that. So we have all sorts of restrictions here, notwithstanding the zoning setbacks that are required on the lower portion of the lot. You can see that lot line that goes adjacent to the Mass Electric. So we have the easement, we have shallow ledge, we have the septic system setbacks that we need to maintain. So we've pulled this back as far as we can away from the river to allow for that placement. And again, this is a small 2-bedroom ADU that's being proposed, 30 by 30. And again, we have you can see the mitigation that's proposed in the grass area. There's a substantial amount of lawn area that Joe will be planting with native plants, shrubs, and so forth that is going to be in between the proposed work and the riverfront area to the right, as well as a rain garden to address any infiltration runoff from the roof that will infiltrate into the ground as part of the build out of the property. And again, we do have the approval from the Board of Health. That took some time to get done, but that was approved. And we do have an alternatives analysis, which the board needs to consider, obviously, before moving on. I can go through that, Madam Chair, if you'd like. Touch on some high points on that, but essentially, we're looking at the limitations to the property include the setbacks to the septic system, to the easement, shallow ledge, and the right of way that I mentioned, as well as you can see the 20-foot minimum to the reserve area, septic reserve area to the structure as shown there. So we are proposing, as I said, the stormwater runoff infiltration with a rain garden, and also erosion control and mitigate 2-to-1 mitigation in between the resource area and the proposed structure. So that's description. I know there's going to be some questions, but Joe and I are here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's have public comment first, and then we'll take up the alternatives analysis prior to member roll call comments as part of the first round of member roll call comments. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 47 Yale County Road?
There's nobody on the Zoom, nobody here.
Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Okay, why don't we go through commissioner comments on the alternatives analysis first, so that we can get that out of the way prior to subsequent discussion.
I'm good with John's analysis.
As am I.
Number 3. No comment. Jackson.
I was in full agreement, so, okay. Let's take a vote on that. Bill, would you like to move?
Commissioner Cook moves to approve the alternative analysis for NOI 0283082 at 47 Yolo Country Road.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
Roll call, member Cook.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, that being done, commissioner comments on the project.
Cook.
I have it, and one question, and it's weird. On the left-hand side of the map, there's a top of coastal dune, but it's all squared off. And that just doesn't seem normal to me.
Yep.
Is there a wall there or something?
Do you want to take all comments
Well,
first?
we're gonna do all comments first, Bill.
Okay.
So, okay, did you have any other questions or comments?
No.
Member Sergeant.
Yeah, there's a concrete patio, and I'm wondering if you consider that mitigation. And I'm wondering how many trees or shrubs are presently in the proposed area of mitigation plantings, and how many trees and shrubs are in the area that you're planning on constructing the house and garage. And I'd like a 2-year monitoring of the mortality and mitigation plantings. All dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged. And I'd like a perpetual condition of the COC to prohibit further alteration within the mitigation area, except as may be required to maintain the area in its mitigated condition.
Member Terry.
No additional comments?
Member Jackson.
No additional comments. Okay, Mr. Judge.
Sure. So Mr. Cook's comment about and not a coastal dune, but a coastal, top of coastal bank, that is a result of DP policy 92-1. So you'll notice, Bill, that, and again, this was established by others prior to me, but it's a direct correlation of the topography, the slope of the topography. So in 1992, the state came out with a policy to delineate coastal bank. The original definition was the first observable slope, break and slope, and that was just too general. So the DEP came out in 1992 with a very much more comprehensive, I think it's like 10 pages, policy 92-1. I'd be happy to, I know several of the members and Chuck are aware of it, but it just goes into various situations where you have, and it's based on directly proportional to the slope. So where you have contours that are closer than 8 feet together for a 2-foot contour, or 25% slope, that's where you have to draw the line. It doesn't, you look at it and you say, I don't understand it, because it doesn't make any sense in most cases, but it's a bit steeper in that location, and that's why the line, you'll see that oftentimes where it comes, and then it'll make an actual 90-degree turn perpendicular to the contours. And that's because due to the slope and the steepness. 25% is the magic number that differentiates. So hopefully that answers that question. And as far as the concrete patio, I'm going to let Joe respond to that one in a second. Number of trees to be removed, we show 2 trees that are, one is within the dwelling and one was within the garage. One is 30-inch oak that Joe will describe that it's not in great health. We understand there's going to be a 2-to-1 requirement for those trees. Joe's aware of that, and that we're going to put that in the mitigation plantings. So there's a total of 4 trees that are required in addition to the, and it can be within that 3,000 square feet mitigation planting, which will be verified typically after 2 years, Joe. So that'll be to ensure that the mortality is, of those 2 for the 2-year period is typical. But as far as the concrete patio, Joe, I don't know if that's something that the family is willing to give up to offset mitigation. I'll just defer to Joe on that.
It would be pretty complicated. That structure was built by my grandfather and my uncle, who was in the local 7 ironworkers union. It's pretty substantial. If it was a wood deck, I wouldn't mind moving it someplace else. It's been a gathering point on the property for generations, so probably not, but we would consider on mitigation.
I think the mitigation for lost trees, you can't add that into the 2-to-1 for the 3,000. I think that has to be added out. I think you're double dipping.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we're very conscious of keeping as many old growth trees up there, as we can. So that footprint, it's just that one large oak tree, and I think the other one is a scrub pine or something. It's not, but we are intending to keep as many old growth trees up there, and if we have to take that out and plant 2 more, we'd happily do that.
Right. It would be 4 more, and mitigation area that you picked out is closer to the water, so trees would actually be better off a little bit further up than the mitigation area anyway.
One question for me, and the plan says you're gonna abandon the existing septic system location. What kind of work is gonna be done to abandon that?
It's a cesspool, so typically it'll be pumped out and just backfilled with, so if it was a solid tank, you would have to puncture it to allow the water to go through. Obviously, everything gets pumped out. That's associated with the septic. That gets pumped out, then backfilled with clean granular material for the water to continue to flow through. It's required on to be inspected by the health agent at the time. So during the pumping and also the backfilling.
The condition that that's done.
Chuck, did you have any comments?
I just typically on things that deal with riverfront, we see the breakdown of existing degraded areas and proposed. I see that here. I don't know if you have those calculations.
I mean,
This is a new development, right?
Yeah, it's not really a redevelopment. I suppose it is because it's
There's existing structures on the property.
there's definitely existing structures, all of which are going to remain.
It's all the same parcel, right? So
It is.
yeah,
It is. We could add that.
What was the question?
It's a degraded area. It's a calculation that under 310 CMR 1058, the River Protection Act, degradation areas tabulated. I'm not sure how it affects. We can certainly add that.
I think there's plenty of mitigation and stuff. It just something we typically see.
We could certainly add that to the plan. It's not a big deal.
Do you have any other comments? Are we in a position to move forward and make that up? Approval, or do you want to continue it?
I hate to, do subject to the his approval. Usually we require, plans for something like that. But I think that's the only speed bump that I see.
Yeah, I was thinking timing for Joe. I know he's anxious to get started.
Is that something we can put on the order of conditions?
I mean, if the commission's fine with the amount of mitigation that's being proposed.
And I'm certainly going to update the plan to show that. I don't see any.
I know the lot and I know the plan. I was there during soil evaluations and stuff. And the reason I didn't bring up the degraded area is I didn't think it was even close. So I didn't mention that. But if it's a technicality that the should be there or.
I don't think it's necessary because there's an alternatives analysis.
Okay.
We already did. I mean, the degraded area part of the redevelopment is in lieu of essentially doing the alternatives analysis part of it. I think if you're doing the alternatives analysis.
And the law was created prior to 1996. So I was under the same thinking as Peter, but we can certainly add it.
I don't think it's necessary. Make it cleaner.
Bill, do you have any feelings one way or the other?
Oh, Bill.
I'm
Hey, Bill.
fine. I mean, if we just, hold off on the order of conditions until the receipt of the new plan.
Well, we were saying that we didn't feel that it was necessary since he had provided the alternatives analysis. Would you object if?
No, I have no objections.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, Commissioner Cook moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0283082 for 47 Yola Country Road.
Commissioner Sargent, seconds.
Member Cook,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook moves to close the NOI, to approve the NOI for 0283082 for 47 Yola Country Road
With the aforementioned conditions.
with the aforementioned conditions.
Commissioner Sargent, seconds.
We'll call Member Cook,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Materi,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, it is Old County Road, Old County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Have a good night.
Good luck. And you will submit the plan with the, oh no, we're not doing the calculation.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. Don't have to do- Next up, NOI 028 unassigned DEP number for 452 Rear Washington Street, Allison Marlowe, for a pervious driveway in the area represented by Allison Marlowe. Name and address for the record.
Allison Marlowe. The address is 452 R Washington Street.
Okay, would you like to give us a brief summary of the project?
Sure. I just wanted to talk a little bit about myself and the property, just because it's conservation related. I work for Schneider Electric, which is just been named the world's most sustainable company. And I work with data center companies, ensuring that they implement sustainable practices globally. So I do take conservation and sustainability very seriously. And on my property, I already have sustainable practices to help protect pollinators, like no mow May. I ensure to leave all not debris, but things for overwintering of insects. And I do take it seriously to protect pollinators. I work with Wild Birds Unlimited to make sure that I am providing good habitat and feed using AI bird feeders to identify the most common birds on my property and make sure that they are well taken care of. I also don't ever use any fertilizers and only use essential oil pesticides to help control ticks. So I do take conservation quite seriously. The project that we're here, Great, you have the color, I'm
We're a
concerned.
good team.
All right, perfect. So the project that, can I stand up or just?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, you
okay.
absolutely can.
Great. So this is the current state of the property. Right now, I have a one-car parking here, but it is very narrow. And this is some of the rocks that were displaced at one time from that rock wall. And it is the desires of myself and the neighbors to reinstate that rock wall and put in a two-car parking in this location. So that's what the project is here to discuss. This is the 100 feet line. So most of the work that we're going to be doing is beyond the 100-foot line, but definitely all of the property is within 200 feet. So this is a brief description of what we're looking to accomplish is to replace that stone wall there and make an opening in the wall here to allow for two-car parking with enough of a turnaround to not have to utilize the neighbor's property for turning around and easy access to parking. And yeah, just briefly, because of the mitigation, these are some existing, if you don't mind going back once. But we have marked out all of the mitigation area. So I know that this is a little bit confusing, but this, the driveway and the parking area is a total of 1,249 square feet as proposed. And we have marked out the different areas where we are going to plant native plants to mitigate for the driveway. So that equals 200 and 298 as currently described by mapping out all of the different areas. I brought Karen, who is an expert in native plants. We've put together a plant list and we plan to focus the plan on pollinators and bird habitats.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. So this is some existing pictures.
Yeah.
I indicated that's in the top corner. There are some existing trees. This area is very shady, but we have identified shade plants where we think that they will grow well. So this is not an existing tree. This is a vine growing on a pole that is the only tree that will be removed, but it is a native vine, so we may try to relocate that to a part of the rock wall. There's more pictures of the existing condition. That's the area where the parking would, so we're proposing to put a 4-foot retaining wall here and then have the 2 cars park here and then turn around and exit the property there. So this is the primary area that will be changed with the proposed parking.
Okay, so that's all lawn now.
Yes. And rocks, which will be moved. And that is the area where there is current gravel that will be putting the rocks back and then turning all of that into native plantings.
Okay. If you have nothing further to add, I'll open it up for public comment and then commissioner comments, and you can respond to any concerns or questions that might come up at the end. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 452 Rear Washington Street?
We have no hands up on Zoom and everybody here's for it.
Okay. Then I will close the public comment period and move on to commissioner comments.
Member Cook?
This one we don't have a number for, correct?
That's correct. It will have to be continued.
Okay, I have no additional comments.
Member Sergeant?
I want to confirm that the driveway will be gravel and wait for everybody to do it. And, not, hard pack. And I'd like a 2-year monitoring of locality and mitigation planting. Natural condition of the COC prohibits further alteration within the mitigation areas, except as may be required to maintain those areas in their mitigated condition.
Member Terry?
Yeah, by my calculation of your riverfront redevelopment under 1058.5, You got 1,249 square feet of alteration. You've got a 5,000 square foot lot in the riverfront area. 10% of that is 500 square feet. So the difference is 749 square feet. That exceeds the 10% requirement. 2 times that is 1,498 square feet of mitigation plan. You were well above that, which is fine if you want to do that. Planning more mitigation than you really have to, in my interpretation, than you have to. But with that last condition that's on there, that prohibits further alteration of the mitigation areas, except as required to maintain them in the mitigated condition, you're kind of handcuffing yourself on extra areas, square footage of the property that doesn't necessarily need to be mitigation area. Again, you're welcome to do that, but that condition is going to sort of prevent you from removing those plants or altering that area in the future. So
Yeah, I was under the assumption that I was working to the minimum. Could you explain
yeah,
that again?
yeah. So 1058.5 parentheses 5 is the section 310 CMR 10. It's a riverfront redevelopment section. So if you're in the riverfront area, if you have a previously developed riverfront area, you're doing any work to redevelop it. It's not an undeveloped kind of virgin riverfront area. So there's already a house, there's already lawn, it's already been developed. You're redeveloping it, and it basically has these 5 different criteria: A, B, C, D, and E. A is about improvement over existing conditions. B is about stormwater, which doesn't apply to a single family home. C is about locating either outside 100 feet or no closer to the river than existing conditions. You're fine on that because you're basically mostly past 100 feet, but on the other side of the house from the river. So you're not closer to the existing conditions. D is, I think, towards away from the river, development away from the river, which you're doing is you're on the other side of the house. And E is the last one, which is basically you can degrade up to 10% of your square footage of the riverfront area.
Okay.
So you have a 5,000 square foot lot in the riverfront.
Yeah.
10% of that is 500 square feet. You get basically 500 square feet to play with,
Okay.
but you're doing 1,249 square feet.
Yeah, I obviously take conservation seriously, but for the purposes of this, what is the minimum if I were to change that I would have to mitigate
Well, you're
for?
already above that. In fact, you might even be above that if you're counting the house and already in the previously degraded area.
By Mr. Vitteria's calculations, it would be the, 749
749, so
twice. Because it's 2-to-1 mitigation, so 1,498. Okay, so 1,498.
So if she's.
I guess I'm not factoring in the house into the
Hang on.
existing degraded.
Yeah, go ahead, John. No, I'm hanging on.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you're restoring the existing parking area too, that would count as 1-to-1 mitigation. So we did less 2-to-1. Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but maybe we, once we figure out what that number actually is, we'll have to continue to another meeting. Maybe we could, just change the condition, just requiring a certain amount of mitigation. Still plant all the stuff, but then identify, a certain portion of that mitigation that would remain,
Yeah,
not alterable in the future, so that it's not the entire area.
Well, we would require something to be mitigated, and if you wanted to plant beyond that, that's fine.
Right.
okay, yeah, if you could let me know the minimum mitigation so that I can really delineate that would be
That's-
fantastic.
I think my calculations are wrong, but my point was eventually just be careful about mitigating more than you're required to do, especially if there's a condition that says you can't alter that in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This is my first time going through this process, so I would love that advice of what that is because I was reading.
So I think we need to know on your entire lot, how much of it is degraded, which means how much of it is an impervious surface structure, footprint of your roof of the house, basically.
Just parking area.
For the existing parking area is gravel, right? I guess it's lack of topsoil. So lawn doesn't count. Basically, what's not lawn.
Lawn is integrated, right?
Yeah, so it's basically what doesn't have any soil on it. Stone walls, concrete patio, house roof, structures, like how much of that square footage of that whole entire lot
Okay, yeah, I see.
is covered by that stuff. And
Okay.
and then you take that minus 500 over your 10%, and then that difference of,
Yeah, the house and deck is 1,000 I listed on there. So the total property is 5,000. The house and deck is 1,000 square feet.
so we're gonna need to know the before and after. So what is your degraded area now?
Yeah.
And then what are you proposing to do, and what's gonna be the new degraded area after you go work?
We can help you figure that out too.
Okay.
You know, some of the tools we have, we can kind of
Yeah,
eyeball
that
it
would
and get it.
Great.
General number.
Is there any opportunity, just because I'm going to be traveling in Europe at the time of the next meeting, and we're very anxious just with the neighbors as well to complete this work this year, just because of the ice with the current parking, it'll be much safer for myself and my husband if we have the newer, flatter parking area over winter, and we are concerned about getting that done this year. Is there any options for getting this completed at this meeting
Yes.
and working to
If
understand?
people do not have any, are you going to say something, Dave?
Yeah, they don't have a DEP number.
They don't. We can't approve it until you have a DEP number.
Is that something I had to do?
No,
No,
have you
it's-
talked with DEP, or are we just waiting for it?
Yeah, I just checked now. It hasn't been issued. So that's something that you submit to. Yeah, their comment says waiting for a fee to clear revenue. So I don't know if you can check your bank, see if the check is cleared. Sometimes there's a lag because the check goes to the Boston office. The NOI goes to Woburn. And sometimes there's a lag in their correspondence. So you can reach out and, especially if you say, hey, this check is cleared, they can then issue that NOI number. But unfortunately, it still hasn't been issued yet, which means the commission can't officially vote on it and approve it.
Okay.
But if you have a DEP number in time for the next meeting, and you have answered the questions that have come up here, like this degraded area, you've straightened that out, then you can appoint someone to act on your behalf, and we can vote
Okay.
on it.
And then that delays getting the approval for an additional 2 weeks.
Well, it's what, 10 days that is an appeal period?
Yes, if
If you work on it in that 10 days, it's at high risk. It's not high risk, but it's at your risk if somebody were to appeal it.
yeah, in
Given
effect,
that there was no
there's
public comment, I'm not sure that,
no butters here to appealing it tonight, so I doubt,
yeah.
unless you have some neighbors that you don't get along with that are out of town.
No, they're.
Calamity.
Yeah. Okay.
I only have one question. We didn't get to me because Peter was quite direct in his questioning, but, and it's a pretty minor question. You had low bush blueberry in a sun-dry planting area. I thought they had to have wet feet, the low bush.
Not necessarily,
Not
no.
necessarily.
If you've got a lot of organic matter or compost, they do very well. I actually have a waterfront property. And I have low bush planted in the wetlands. And I also have them planted in the upper part of the property. And they both do, obviously they thrive in moist conditions. But yeah, they, as long as you've got a lot of organic matter, they'll do well. They won't do well in a rock garden, that's for sure. That's not their native habitat. But
In this area is at the toe of a slope. There's granite, further up the slope. I'm sure the water table is fairly high at the toe.
yeah, that
toe of
one,
the slope. Yeah, anyway.
exactly.
All right, because I've tried manfully to grow low bush blueberries in a place in Maine and in my waterfront house. And I got nothing. The moose ate them in Maine,
Oh, no.
but just, all right.
Lots of compost because they love acidic soil. That's
Okay,
it.
yeah, I have added
They
it.
thrive in that, so.
Yeah, the high bush is fine.
Yeah.
The low bush, nothing. Okay, then those.
Yeah, Karen's gonna help you with
Sure,
that. And I know we have
sure.
the bearberries, which are good in dry soil, depending on where we're going.
So if you can get those calculations and understand them and, take those into account, and you can appoint someone to represent you, assuming that we have a DEP number, there's no reason we can't take it. Great. Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Cook moves NOI 028, no assigned DEP number for 452 Rear Washington Street to the meeting of 9/17.
Commissioner Sargent seconds.
I'll call Member Cook.
Yes.
Yes.
Member Terry.
yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes. So you're all set for this meeting.
Thank you.
Good presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Check on the, if that check is cleared.
Yeah.
For DEP, as I said, there's sometimes a disconnect. And
Then
another
I have to
person.
call them or,
Well, check with your bank, and if
Okay.
it's cleared at your bank, then I can put you in contact with whoever on
okay,
this end to assign the number.
They give you a number out of the.
Not usually, but they'll sometimes, get the ball rolling once they, you have a copy of that check or something to you, can email that to me and then I can pass it on to them and.
yeah, I got copies of all the checks.
I meant cleared,
Oh, cleared.
or just, let me know that it has cleared and I can reach out to them and.
You all did a great job tonight.
Thank you.
So tough to, well, those proposals were tough.
Actually, this was fairly easy.
Yeah, we've had 25 hearings in a night. So that's
Not even
oh,
a
yeah.
clock is.
Yeah.
My phone is asleep. I don't know how you.
Gonna have to carry them out. Well, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.
We look forward to seeing you again.
I look forward to it.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye now. Okay, still waiting on 35 Massasoit.
Yeah, it sounded like at the last meeting, they prepared the as-built and found that it was as-built, then so they're gonna be coming back with us with something additional.
Something else, okay, all right.
This will stop, no new information.
Yeah, the lady had left that here. Oh, you know which lady it was?
Mrs. Minahan from.
Oh, Stacy Moore,
No,
no,
she's
no,
on-
she was on
Megan,
line.
Okay,
640 Washington.
640 Washington.
Retaining wall, send the block repairs.
yep.
Okay.
I'll be
Boy,
talking to
you good.
Mary Megan Quinn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll reach out to her. I'll bring that to the office.
Okay.
If there are credit cards, keep them in there, please.
Maybe so that you take.
So what did you say on Massapoit on the?
Oh, so they had, I guess, it sounded like at the last meeting, I believe, that they had prepared the as-built for the house that hasn't received the COC yet. But it sounded like they had indeed exceeded what was proposed and we're gonna be coming back to us with some sort of plan to rectify that.
Okay,
So, I don't have any indication as to when that will happen, so.
And whistle stop.
Stop, no new information. I just got in trouble the one time I took it off the agenda. So
Okay.
I leave it on the
Put it
agenda.
on the agenda, all right. Under other, I do have something to bring up. And Rob has become overwhelmed, I think, professionally and personally, and has asked Peter to take over his duties as chairman. I don't know whether we want to take action on it tonight. Do you want to wait till Rob's here, Peter?
I don't know what we need to do. Does he need to formally step down or submit a letter or something? Or
Well, he's just usually what we have done in the past, which we haven't done in decades, I think, is just to simply vote among us.
I thought we did, like a year and a half or 2 years ago because of,
Oh, did we?
yeah, right. So I don't think it was that long ago.
Okay,
No.
all right,
No, it's,
Okay.
since I've been here.
okay.
Um,
Sherman, because Commissioner Sherman required it.
Oh,
requested
okay,
it, yeah.
okay. I do remember that.
so it's, if Rob is, just wanting to, not be a chair anymore, then I guess it's a question of whether or not comfortable being the only chairperson. I
Well-
think it's been
well,
helpful to have
yeah.
a co-chair to,
I think it is, and I talked with Peter. I asked him if he would like me to continue as kind of a co-chair, which is basically running things when he's not here and making motions, kind of thing. So, and you were comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
I'm comfortable, I think, in voting now if Rob's on.
I think it needs to be on the agenda.
somebody wants to.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think it does?
I
Really?
I
do.
think so.
Okay, all
Doesn't need
right,
to be noticed, I don't believe.
all right. Well, you're all aware of it now.
We
So-
can put it on the agenda and do it next
Yep.
time.
Yeah, I think it.
Okay.
You want
That's
to submit some comments in writing?
If anybody,
But, okay, but on a different note then, so that's gonna bring us down to what, just 4 people?
I think Rob's, he's not
No, Rob's not quitting.
leaving, he's just stepping down from the role of the chair.
Okay,
So-
but let's assume that Rob can't make it to all of the meetings.
Like tonight,
What will constitute a quorum for us?
it's 3 will be the quorum because we have a commission of 5.
Okay,
And
so,
for voting, it's a majority of the
3.
members that are present.
okay, so at the minimum, we're gonna have to make sure that we have 3 commissioners available for all meetings.
Yes.
Sure. I mean, once we get down to 4, it does make it a bit more difficult because a 2-2 tie means something does not pass. So it has to be a majority, so.
No, it's this not having 7 commissioners is a challenge. It's something I'm going to mention to Mayor Verga, along with a few other concerns in this election year.
We've been working, we have at least one person that's interested, but if people
we?
hear more,
Okay, good.
so.
Commissioner Sargent makes a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Cook will second that one.
Roll call, member Cook,
Yes.
member Sergeant,
Yes.
member Terry,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes,
Ready?
all right.
Have a good night, everyone.